Hey guys, Shadylikeatree here, and welcome into Smite Saturday. It is August 1st. Welcome to the month of August. We got some Zeus gameplay for you today. I'm playing the new-ish Zeus skin. This was released as part of the July 4th celebration. It's no longer available, but I'm assuming you're going to be able to get it next year, just as you were able to get the Ra again this year. Basically, I built in magical power all the way. I know a lot of people like to build him attack speed. My internet's not really good enough to build him attack speed because you got to have that like awesome connection and whatnot. So that's kind of where I'm at with him. But anyway, the reason why I had this gameplay originally was I was going to talk about July 4th back in July, but I've decided to kind of change my mind, change things up a little bit. And today I'm going to talk about what I want in my president, my next president. I know we're still 15 or so months. Well, it's actually probably yeah, it's about 15 months away now from the election. Every 4 years, for those of you that aren't American, the American president gets elected in November. The process starts super early. It's about a year and a half to 2 years before when a president's term is up that they start looking for people to replace him. If he's already served 2 terms, he can no longer serve anymore. And the current president, Barack Obama, has already served 8 years, or, well, has served 2 terms this November, so he will no longer be able or allowed to participate in the choosing of a president because by the constitutional amendment, I forget which one it is, he can no longer be president because you're only allowed 2 terms as president. It was a precedent for a long time, and it was set by George Washington and followed until FDR, who I believe had 3 terms and died in his 3rd term, maybe. Might have been a 4th. I'm forgetting some of my presidential term history and the like, but at the same time, that was a long time ago. But anyway, so we have a lot of candidates on the ballot, and I'm not going to speak specifically about any one particular candidate. I kind of wrote down some of my thoughts about what I would want my next president to be about and kind of what I think would make for the best president for the future of this country. I think we're at a really key and pivotal time. And I think our next president is going to be really key for the future of this planet and this country. And I think that this next president will be very important. So the first thing I kind of listed here that I thought about is I want someone that will be able to and willing to communicate. So often when we see candidates, they say, well, I'm going to create more jobs. Great. Sounds great on paper. How do you plan to do that? A lot of candidates will say nothing. A lot of candidates will say, oh, I'm going to decrease taxes and increase taxes here, or I'm going to give incentives to businesses and companies and the like and whatnot. And that's all well and good, but that's not an actual answer. I want to know, okay, what taxes do you plan to lower? What taxes do you plan to raise? You know, who do you, what companies are you going to incentivize? How are you going to incentivize them? I'd like some details. I'd like you to just not fly by the seat of your pants and just, you know, say, you know, this is what we're going to do, and not really share how you're going to do it, because I think the how is just as important as the what of your message. Another kind of major thing I think we need is I think we need someone who can unite the country. We are at our most divisive time since the Civil War, I think. I think things are a lot better and are better for a lot of people more now than they were, you know, 5-10 years ago. I think a lot of people are focused on the negativity, especially race issues. I think race issues are the best they've ever been, but it doesn't seem like that because there's so much attention on it. I would say that things are better. They're not fixed. They're nowhere near fixed. But if you look at the whole pie and you say that, you know, okay, 100% of the pie is everybody's equal and everything's good and people are nice and loving and caring to each other, this, that, and the other. If that's 100%, and let's say that, I don't even know, for instance, let's say slave ship in the 1700s is 0. So we're going 0 to 100 scale. I'd say we're probably in the neighborhood of 40 to 50, maybe better. I'm not really an expert on that, but I think things are better than they have been. They're nowhere near as good as they need to be or should be in the 21st century again. But I think that that's important, and we need to be brought together. And what's amazing to me is, and I'll bring this up, and this will be the only time I talk about it, but after 9/11, this country was the most united I'd ever seen it. Now, granted, I was only 10 years old at the time. It hasn't been that way since. But I don't want a national tragedy to be what unites us. I want a leader, a figurehead, or an ideal to be what unites us. And I think that the president has to be in charge of that narrative. I think the president has to say, and I have this further down here, they have to try their hardest to make America better than it is now. Everyone talks about how, we're 15th in this category, or we're 29th in this category, 96th out of all of the countries in this category, or whatever, and we lead the world in only 3 things: McDonald's per capita or whatever, and most incarcerated presidents per capita, and all these other really bad things. But I think, and I've said this before, I don't know if I've said it on the channel before or not, but what really makes this country great, what makes America great, is that despite our shortcomings, and despite any potential or perceived lack of resources, of really anything, we are willing and able to say, we look and see what you've done, Canada. We look and see what you do, England. Russia, we look at you and see what you're able to do. China, we look and see what you're able and potential in doing. And we say to you, we're not only going to do what you do, we're going to do it better. We are going to absolutely destroy you on doing your own game. We are going to do it better. We're going to do it cheaper. We're going to be smarter about it. We're going to employ more people. We're going to be happier. We're going to do this thing. And our entire careers, I will say, or I guess lifetime, we have said, yes, we are America, and we can do it as good but better than you. And I think we need a president who's willing to come out and say that, and is willing to look at the problems that we have and just say, we're going to do this better than you, and there's nothing you can say and do about it, and it's going to bring us all together, and we're going to find ourselves again. Kind of moving along, kind of one of the thoughts that I've been having in this whole discussion of president is a lot of people are voting for Hillary just because she's a woman. They think we need a woman president. I know some Republicans are going to vote for Herman Cain just because he's black. I think that that's wrong thinking. I think we should want the president that's the best for this country. I don't think we should want, a woman president. I don't think we should want a person of color to be president. I think we should want the best candidate for president. And if that candidate happens to be a woman, if that candidate happens to be Hispanic or a Japanese American or have Asian descent or whatever. I don't even like using the term Japanese American because they're not Japanese, they are American. If it's a minority, air quotes, so be it. I want the best candidate. I don't want their race or sexuality or any of that to really matter. What's most important is qualification and willingness and ability to do the job, and the rest of it can just be thrown out the window because I don't really think it matters too much at the end of the day. Two kind of important issues I think we need to really take a look at in the next 4 or 8 years, and president term is 4 years for those of you who don't know that, and I'm sure that there are a lot of Americans who don't know that because most of us can't pass an American citizenship test apparently, but I think that the internet is very important, and I want someone who understands the internet. I recently heard a candidate who has also dropped out say that they have no idea about any of the internet's issues, and that was just kind of shocking to me, how someone in this day and age who's trying to lead a country in the 21st century doesn't know how the internet works and doesn't know how to do things. But I think that it's important, and this is personal belief of mine, so take it with a grain of salt, I guess, is that I think the candidate needs to understand that the internet needs to be left mostly unregulated from a consumer side, and I think that we definitely need to fix copyright laws when it comes to the internet because of the technology, and I think copyright laws are so far out of date, it's unreal. Um, but at the same time, I think we need to have someone who's willing to kind of take a look at the various companies, the Time Warners, the Comcasts, the Coxes of the world, and say, you know, what you're doing is not right, it is not correct, and therefore we need to make a change, because these highways that they've proposed in the past, these internet regulations, and all these rules that they're trying to put on the internet, I think are just going to stifle creativity and stifle innovation, and that's not good. It's not, and I don't know how to fix the problems they're trying to address without doing that, but I think that it can be done if you took a really hard look at it and you spent the proper time that it needs, and didn't just listen to the Time Warners and the Verizons of the world, and the people who would benefit from having a fast lane and a slow lane on the internet, and people who can throttle you and do this sort of thing just because you're using too much internet. I just don't think that's right. I think we also need someone who's willing to acknowledge climate change. I think for far too many of the candidates that are currently out there, they're like, oh, well, global warming doesn't really exist because the world got colder this year. Hurdy, 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 hur. No, that's not true. I think if you're willing to blatantly disregard most scientists on the topic, in fact, one candidate said, I'm no scientist on the matter, but I don't believe global warming is a thing. First of all, they've stopped calling it global warming because that's not what it's all composed of and not what happens. But who claims to not be an expert yet ignores the experts. It's asinine. That's what it is. It's asinine. So I think someone who understands, or is willing to understand and listen to the climate and experts, I think is important. And I think that we have to have that candidate moving forward. I want a presidential candidate, and I want a president who is not going to waste taxpayer dollars. I think that taxes are high enough for a majority of Americans. I would argue that certain transactions which lead to wealth should be taxed higher. I won't go into the nitty-gritty of that because it's just way too over a lot of people's heads, and a lot of people won't understand, and a lot of people it wouldn't even affect. But at the same time, I think that we have to have someone who is not going to waste the money. Like one candidate recently said, well, I'm going to use the National Guard to stop this thing from happening, when using National Guard resources, which are already kind of important for things like, you know, flood control and disaster relief and assisting the military and like all other 1,000 things they probably do that I'm not remembering or don't know off the top of my head. I think that there's better use of taxpayer dollars, you know, like pass a law maybe. But I just think that that's stupid and asinine to say such a thing. Like, I get that it's all politics and you're trying to rile up your fan base, but that's just a dumbass thing to say. It really is. And I'm sure any of you who have followed the news recently, namely today, will know exactly what I'm talking about, and it will make perfect, complete sense. I want someone who's willing to try new things, and by new things, I mean think outside the box. You know, we've done a lot of things one way for a number of years. I want someone who's open to new ideas and willing to give them a shot, even though it may not be politically popular. I think that we have to try things. You know, the whole saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, would apply here, but there are some things that are broken and could be fixed. And why not just give it a tryout period of 6 months and say, hey, this doesn't work, we'll go back to the old way, no big deal. I want someone who is going to be unafraid of what people think. I know that in the last couple of years of Obama's term, now he's been reelected and can't be president again, he's kind of given the big middle finger to everyone and kind of told everyone where they can go because he's already won both his terms and he doesn't have to be elected again. And I really appreciate that. And I think that that's going to be important moving forward. And lastly, before I go here, I want to just say that I want someone who's going to responsibly appoint to the Supreme Court, because we have a number of those members that are aging and are old and are probably going to retire and or die soon. So I think that's kind of important as well. But thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have a great day. DFTBA, and I'll see you next Saturday.